My family treated me like their wallet and their joke. So I cut them off completely and they finally learned what losing me really costs. When I came home from work, exhausted like always, another 12-hour shift, another day of putting my own life on hold to make sure they had everything they needed. The moment I stepped through the door, I could hear them talking, laughing even. I wasn't in the mood. For years I had been paying the mortgage on this house, covering the bills, making sure my parents and younger sister Rachel didn't have to struggle. It wasn't a discussion. It wasn't a family agreement. It was just expected. And I did it because that's what family does, right? But over time something shifted. What started as gratitude became entitlement. The thank yous became complaints. My long hours weren't seen as a sacrifice but an inconvenience. I wasn't a son anymore. I was a walking paycheck. And tonight, I had finally had enough. It started with Rachel. She was stretched out on the couch, scrolling through her phone, eyes glued to the screen. The new designer collection she wanted. Limited edition handbag, luxury shoes. A coat that cost more than my monthly car payment. She had sent me the link that morning with a simple text. "Get these for me." I hadn't even responded. "Hey," I said, tossing my keys onto the table. "Did you even apply for those jobs I sent you?" Rachel scoffed, not even looking away from the fashion website on her phone. "Nah, they're all trash. You wouldn't want me working some minimum wage retail job, right? I'd die before I fold clothes at the mall." I clenched my jaw. Before I could say anything, my father walked in from the kitchen, my mother following close behind. "Oh, don't nag her, Jason," my father said. "She's still figuring things out." "Figuring things out?" I repeated, staring at Rachel, who still hadn't acknowledged me properly. "She's 24. She doesn't do anything all day." Rachel smirked. "That's not true." I exhaled sharply, trying to stay calm. "Right. And you expect me to just keep paying for everything?" My mother huffed while my father crossed his arms. "Oh, stop making such a big deal out of everything, Jason," my mother said. "We appreciate what you do, but honestly, you act like we're bankrupting you." My father added, "It's just money." Just money? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For years I had skipped nights out, postponed vacations, lived in a cheap apartment just so I could funnel my earnings into keeping them comfortable. Just money. I turned back to Rachel. "Well, if it's just money, why don't you buy your own designer clothes?" That made her pause. She finally glanced at me over her shoulder, an amused grin spreading across her face. "Dude, why are you freaking out? It's not like you can't afford it." Then she laughed, like I was the joke, and something inside me snapped. "Let's see who pays your mortgage then." Silence. For the first time, Rachel looked at me like she actually heard what I said. My parents exchanged glances. Then my father waved his hand dismissively. "Oh, Jason, stop. You always say that, but you'd never actually." "I would." My voice was steady, cold. My mother's mouth hung open slightly. Rachel sat up straighter. "You think I'm bluffing?" I asked, taking out my phone. "Let's find out." And for the first time in years they all looked nervous. For a long moment they just stared at me. My parents standing shoulder to shoulder, waiting for me to back down like I always did. Rachel watching with that lazy, half-amused smirk, like this was some kind of game. They thought I was bluffing. I pulled up my banking app, scrolling to the mortgage payments. A few taps and I could cancel them, just like that. I hovered my thumb over the option, my heart pounding. "Jason." My father's voice had changed, less dismissive now, more cautious. "You don't mean that." I glanced at him. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because you love us," my mother said smoothly, like she was reminding me of something I'd forgotten. "You wouldn't leave your own family homeless." I let out a humorless laugh. "Homeless? That's funny. Because I've never had a home here." I gestured around the house, the one I pay for. "This place has never felt like mine. It's always been yours, Rachel's. I've just been the one footing the bill." Rachel scoffed. "Oh, come on, don't be so dramatic. You like taking care of us." I snapped my gaze to her, and for the first time she looked a little uneasy. "No, Rachel. I like thinking that maybe one day you'd grow up and do something for yourself. I like believing that my parents actually appreciated the sacrifices I've made for you all. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. But I see it now. You don't appreciate me. You just expect it. I'm not a son to you both. I'm a paycheck. And to you, Rachel, I'm a joke. Rachel shifted uncomfortably. My parents looked at each other. My mother stepped forward. Jason, honey. She softened her tone. You're just tired. You work too hard. My father chimed in. You're stressed. Let's sit down and talk about this. I am tired, I said. But I'm not stressed. Not anymore. I turned back to my phone, one last glance at the screen. Then, without hesitation, I tapped the option, mortgage payment cancel. The room froze. My mother's face went slack. My father's eyes widened in disbelief. Rachel's mouth fell open as the realization hit her. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and exhaled slowly. There. Now we'll see just how funny it is when the bills come in. My father found his voice first. Jason, you can't do this. I just did. You're overreacting, my mother snapped, her tone shifting from fake sweetness to frustration. You owe us. I laughed. I don't owe you anything. She gasped, like I had just slapped her. My father's face reddened. Rachel shot up from the couch. Dude, what the hell? You're really going to let your family go broke over some stupid argument? I gave her a long look. You're 24, Rachel. Get a job. She looked at our parents, like she expected them to fix this. Jason, my father said through gritted teeth. Turn it back on. Right now. No. The color drained from my mother's face while my father's hands balled into fists. For the first time in my life, I watched as the reality of the situation finally sank in for them. I wasn't playing around. I wasn't going to cave this time. I was done, and their little world was about to collapse. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Rachel looked at our parents, then back at me, her confidence slipping. You're actually serious, she muttered. I crossed my arms. Yeah, Rachel, I am. My father took a step toward me, trying to regain control. Jason, be reasonable. We're family. No, I cut in. Family doesn't treat each other like a bank. Family doesn't laugh when someone's struggling. I gestured toward Rachel. You've both let her sit around for years while I worked myself into the ground. That ends today. My mother's lips parted, like she had a response, but nothing came out. My father just glared. Then Rachel, ever the spoiled little sister, scoffed. Fine, go ahead, see if we care. I smiled. Oh, you will care. I grabbed my keys and walked toward the door. Good luck with the bills. And with that, I left. The last thing I heard before the door slammed shut was my mother whispering to my father, What are we going to do? They had no idea what was coming next. I didn't go back that night, or the next. For the first time in years, I slept without worrying about someone else's bills, without checking my account to make sure I could cover everything and still afford my own needs. 2 days passed before the text started. Dad, Jason, we need to talk. Mom, Jason, the bank called. The payment didn't go through. Call me now. Rachel, dude, you're really doing this? I didn't reply. By the third day, the tone shifted. Dad, how could you do this to your own parents? Mom, Jason, please call us. We're worried about you. Rachel, wow, real mature. Hope you feel good about yourself. And then, finally, Mom, Jason, please. We don't know what to do. I stared at the message for a long time. For once, it wasn't a demand. For once, they sounded afraid. I put my phone down. Let them sweat. This was only the beginning. By the end of the week, the messages turned into calls. At first, I ignored them, but when my phone rang for the third time in an hour, I finally picked up. The second I answered, my father's panicked voice came through the speaker. Jason, thank God. Listen, we have a problem. The mortgage is past due, and the bank says if we don't pay soon, we'll get hit with late fees. You need to fix this now. I leaned back in my chair. No, you need to fix it. Jason, he said, exasperated, like I was being difficult on purpose. You don't understand. If we miss another payment, they'll start sending notices. This isn't funny anymore. I was never laughing. Silence. Then my mother's voice came on, softer, trying a different angle. Sweetheart, I know you're upset, but you can't just abandon us like this. I sighed. I didn't abandon you. I stopped being used. Big difference. They were quiet for a moment. Then my father dropped the act entirely. Fine, he snapped. If you want to watch your own family suffer, go ahead. But don't come crawling back when you realize how selfish you're being. I let out a short laugh. You still don't get it, do you? What's there to get? My mother asked. We're family, Jason. We help each other. No, I said firmly. I helped you, and all I got in return was being treated like a walking wallet. I could hear Rachel in the background, muttering something. Then, loud enough for me to hear, she scoffed. He's bluffing. He'll cave. That sealed it. Good luck, I said. And then I hung up. I blocked all 3 of their numbers. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Blocking them didn't stop the fallout. A week later, I started getting calls from unknown numbers. Voicemails from both parents, trying every trick in the book. First, guilt from my mother, Jason. I don't know how you can sleep at night knowing your own parents are struggling. Do you really hate us that much? Then denial from my father. This is just a phase. I know you, Jason. You always come back. Just stop being dramatic and fix this already. Then desperation from both. Please, Jason. The second warning notice came today. We don't know what to do. We could lose the house. I listened to each voicemail in silence, then deleted them. They still didn't get it. It wasn't my house. It wasn't my responsibility. And I wasn't coming back. Then, on the 10th day, something changed. I got a text from an old family friend, Mrs. Reynolds, the sweet elderly woman who lived next door to my parents. Mrs. Reynolds, Jason, I don't mean to worry you, but your parents just came over in tears. They say they're sick and need help. I'm concerned. Can you check on them? Sick. Of course they were sick. I sighed, rubbing a hand over my face. My parents were good at manipulation, but this was low, even for them. I sat there for a long moment, debating whether to ignore it. But deep down, I knew I had to see it for myself. If they really were sick, I'd figure out what to do. But if they were lying, then this would be the last time I ever set foot in that house. I grabbed my keys. It was time to end this. I pulled up to the house just as the sun was setting. It looked the same as always, except now it wasn't my burden anymore. I sat in the car for a moment, debating whether this was even worth it. But I had to know. If my parents were truly sick, fine, I'd help. But if this was just another attempt to manipulate me, well, then this would be the last time I wasted my time on them. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Finally, the door creaked open, and there they were. My mother stood in the dimly lit hallway, wrapped in a thick blanket like she was on her deathbed. My father stood behind her, his arm around her shoulders, looking haggard. Their eyes were red-rimmed, their faces pale. My mother coughed weakly. "Oh, Jason," she croaked, barely above a whisper. "Cough. I knew you'd come." I crossed my arms. "What's wrong with you two?" My father shook his head solemnly. "It's been rough, son. Stress, maybe. The worry about this house, about your sister. It's been hard on us both. Your mother can barely eat right. Stress-induced starvation. Convenient." I glanced past them into the house. It was a mess. Unpaid bills piled up on the counter. Takeout containers stacked near the sink, the TV still on, paused on some reality show. And then I spotted it, a half-eaten pizza sitting open on the coffee table, 2 cans of soda beside it. For people who claimed they couldn't eat, they sure weren't starving. I exhaled sharply. Cut the act. My mother blinked, all wide-eyed innocence, while my father frowned. "What do you mean?" she asked. "You're not sick," I said flatly. "You just thought playing the victim would get me to cave again." Their expressions faltered for a split second before my mother let out another weak cough. "Jason, please, I stepped inside, shutting the door behind me. "Enough. This is pathetic." They straightened up a little too quickly for people supposedly on death's doorstep. My father's arm dropped from my mother's shoulders. "You're being cruel, Jason," my father said sternly. "Do you even care what happens to us?" I looked them both dead in the eyes. Not anymore. They sucked in sharp breaths, genuinely stunned. "I did care," I continued, my voice calm but firm. "I spent years breaking my back for this family, and all you ever did was take. You called me selfish, ungrateful, but the truth is, you only ever loved what I could do for you. The second I stopped, you pulled this stunt." Tears welled in my mother's eyes while my father's jaw clenched. "That's not true, Jason," my mother whispered. "We love you." "No. You needed me," I corrected. "And now that I'm done, you don't know what to do." They exchanged glances. For the first time I saw it, the fear in their eyes, the realization that I meant what I said, that I wasn't coming back. I turned toward the door. "Figure it out." My mother reached for my arm. "Jason, please." I pulled away. My father just stood there, silent, anger radiating from him. "Goodbye." And this time, I meant it. I didn't look back as I walked out. The door clicked shut behind me, but I could still hear my mother's voice, shaky, desperate. "Jason, wait. Please don't do this." I ignored it. The cool evening air hit me as I stepped outside, but I barely noticed. My heart was pounding, but not from anger, not from guilt, from relief. I climbed into my car, gripping the steering wheel as I exhaled slowly. It was over. Really, actually over. No more working myself to the bone just to keep their lives comfortable. No more guilt tripping. No more being laughed at while I sacrificed everything for them. I was free. I started the car, but before I could drive off, my phone buzzed on the passenger seat. I knew who it was before I even looked. Rachel. I hesitated. A part of me wanted to throw the phone out the window, but another part, the part that still wanted to believe she could change, made me pick it up. I answered. "What?" "Dude," Rachel's voice came through, low and bitter. "I can't believe you actually did it." I said nothing. She let out a sharp laugh. "You're really just going to leave us hanging like this? After everything?" "After everything?" I repeated, anger flickering back to life. "You mean after everything I did for you?" Rachel scoffed. "Oh please, you act like you're some kind of saint. Newsflash, bro, you're not?" I clenched my jaw. "And you're not a kid anymore. It's time you start acting like it." A beat of silence. Then her voice dropped. "You think you're better than us now just 'cause you finally grew a spine?" I almost laughed. "I don't think I'm better, Rachel. I think I'm done." Another pause. Then, quietly, Mom and Dad are really freaking out. "Good. They'll figure it out," I said simply. She sighed, exasperated. "You're really not going to help?" "No, Rachel. I'm really not." I heard her inhale sharply as if she was about to argue again. But then she exhaled and muttered, "Whatever, man. Just don't come crying to us when you realize you're nothing without family." I shook my head. "No, Rachel. Don't come crying to me when you realize you're nothing without me." I hung up, blocked her number, and then, with a deep breath, I pulled out of the driveway, without a single ounce of regret. For the first time in my life, I was choosing me. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of silence. It was strange at first, not having my phone blow up with their demands, their complaints, their guilt trips. For so long, my entire life had revolved around making sure they were okay. Now, for the first time, I was waking up and only worrying about myself. And I liked it. I had more money in my account than I'd had in years. I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck anymore, scrambling to cover their bills before thinking about my own. I even took a weekend off, an actual real weekend, just because I could. Then, on the 15th day, I got a text from an unfamiliar number. "Unknown, Jason, it's Aunt Linda. Call me." I frowned. Aunt Linda wasn't someone who reached out often. She lived in another state, kept to herself. If she was texting, it had to be serious. I called her back. She picked up on the first ring. "Jason." "Oh, thank God." I sat up. "What's going on?" She sighed heavily. "It's your parents. They called me in hysterics. They say they don't know how they're going to make it. They told me you cut them off, and now they and Rachel are drowning in debt. I leaned back against the couch. Yeah, that sounds about right. Linda hesitated. So it's true? Yes, I said simply. And I don't regret it. She was quiet for a moment. Then carefully she said, Jason, I understand why you did it. I do. But are you sure there's no way to fix this? I let out a humorless chuckle. Fix what? The fact that they used me for years? That they laughed in my face every time I tried to stand up for myself? That they only ever cared about me when I was useful to them? Linda sighed. I get it. I really do. But Jason, they're still your parents. No, I said, my voice firm. They were only ever parents when it benefited them. Another silence. Then she said something that caught me off guard. You know they're losing the house, right? I blinked. What? The final notice came last week. They called me begging for help, but Jason, I can't afford to bail them out, and neither can Rachel. They're running out of options. I felt nothing. No sadness, no regret. Just a simple, quiet understanding that this was exactly what they deserved. They always thought I'd come back, I muttered. They really thought they could push me and I'd never walk away. Linda sighed again. And now they're panicking. Good, I said. Linda hesitated. Then, with a careful tone, she asked, So what are you going to do? I didn't even have to think about it. Nothing. For the first time, their problems weren't mine to solve. And I was finally free. A week later, I got a final text from my father. The house is gone. Just 3 words. No begging. No accusations. Just cold, simple defeat. I stared at the message for a long time, waiting for something. Guilt, sadness, maybe even relief. But all I felt was closure. I had spent years holding that house together, making sure they never had to struggle. And the second I stepped away, everything crumbled. Not because I was cruel, not because I wanted them to fail, but because they had never once tried to stand on their own. They thought I would always be there. They thought I would never really leave. But I did. And now they were facing the consequences of their own choices. I put my phone down and exhaled. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel trapped. I didn't feel drained. I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of an entire household on my shoulders. I felt free. And as I walked out of my apartment into the bright, open world ahead of me, I knew this was just the beginning of my life. The life I had always deserved. 3 months passed. I got a promotion at work, something that never would have happened if I was still pulling double shifts to cover my family's bills. I moved into a better apartment, one with a balcony where I could have my morning coffee. I started dating again. I even took a weekend trip to the coast just because I could. It wasn't all easy. There were nights I'd wake up in a cold sweat, wondering if I'd made the right choice. Times I'd find myself hovering over their numbers, finger poised to unblock them. Old habits die hard when you've been the family fixer for so long. The guilt doesn't just vanish overnight. But I held firm. Every time I felt myself wavering, I'd remember Rachel's laugh, my father's dismissive wave, my mother's fake tears. And I'd put the phone down. One Tuesday evening, I was leaving the grocery store when I heard someone call my name. Jason. I turned to see Mrs. Reynolds pushing her cart toward me. Her face looked tired, the lines around her eyes deeper than I remembered. Oh, it's good to see you, she said, reaching out to pat my arm. How have you been? I'm good, I said, and for once it wasn't a lie. Really good, actually. She nodded, studying my face. You look better. Healthier, thanks. I shifted my grocery bags. How have you been? A shadow crossed her face. Oh, getting by. She hesitated. I don't know if you want to hear this, but your family moved. Something cold settled in my stomach. Moved? After they lost the house. Your father found work in another city, construction, I think, minimum wage stuff. She sighed. Your mother's working too now, at a diner, I believe. I said nothing. And Rachel? Mrs. Reynolds shook her head. Well, last I heard, she was looking for roommates, had to sell most of her designer clothes and handbags. I nodded slowly, absorbing this information. A part of me had expected to feel satisfaction, maybe even vindication. Instead, I felt nothing, just a quiet acknowledgement that actions have consequences. They tried calling me a few times, Mrs. Reynolds continued, asking if I'd heard from you. I told them I hadn't. She looked at me carefully. They seem different now. Humbled, maybe. Maybe, I said, not convinced. She smiled sadly. Life has a way of teaching us the lessons we need to learn, doesn't it? We said our goodbyes and I walked to my car, her words echoing in my head. Life has a way of teaching us the lessons we need to learn. For the next week, I found myself thinking about them more than I had in months, not with anger or resentment, but with a strange, detached curiosity. Who were they now? Had they really changed? Part of me doubted it. People don't transform overnight. Then, on a rainy Friday evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. Usually, I let those go to voicemail. But something made me pick up. Hello? A pause. Then Jason, it's Dad. My grip tightened on the phone. I said nothing. Please don't hang up, he said quickly. His voice sounded different, less commanding, more tired. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking for. I should have hung up. That would have been the smart move. Instead, I found myself saying, I'm listening. He exhaled shakily. I've been trying to find the right words for months. How do you apologize for years of taking someone for granted, for treating your own son like an ATM? He paused. But I'm trying anyway. I'm sorry, Jason. I'm so sorry. I sat down on my couch, surprised by the emotion in his voice. Where are you calling from? Ridgefield. It's about 2 hours from the old house. We're renting a small place. Nothing fancy, but it's something. Your mother and me. Rachel's got her own place now. 3 roommates, but she's managing. A dry chuckle. Yeah, retail. Hates it, but she shows up. That's something. I closed my eyes, picturing Rachel working in some mall store, standing behind a counter for hours, folding the same luxury brand she used to demand I buy her. My entitled sister, finally facing reality. And you? I asked. Construction. 6 days a week. Hard work, but... He trailed off. It's honest. And Mom, waitressing. Double shifts sometimes. He cleared his throat. We're getting by, learning how to stand on our own 2 feet, something we should have done a long time ago. We were both quiet for a moment. Then he said, I'm not calling to ask for money, Jason. I need you to know that. We made this mess. We're cleaning it up. Then why are you calling? I asked, not unkindly. Because I miss my son, he said simply. Because I've had a lot of time to think about the kind of father I was, the kind of father I want to be. If you'll give me another chance. I stared out my window at the rain streaking down the glass. Part of me wanted to believe him. Another part remembered all the broken promises. All the times they'd let me down. I don't know, Dad. I understand. His voice was resigned. We hurt you badly. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. No, I agreed. It's not. Would you... He hesitated. Would you be willing to meet for coffee sometime? Just to talk. No pressure. No expectations. Just catching up. I thought about it. Really thought about it. About what I wanted, what I needed. Maybe, I said finally, but not right away. I need time. Time, he repeated. We've got plenty of that. A pause. Thank you, Jason. For picking up, for listening. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time, watching the rain. I wasn't ready to forgive them. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But for the first time, I could imagine a world where we existed in each other's lives without the old patterns resurfacing, where they saw me as a person, not a provider, where I set boundaries and they respected them. It wouldn't be easy. Years of damage couldn't be undone with one phone call, one apology. But maybe, just maybe, something new could grow from the ashes of what was lost. I picked up my phone again and created a new contact. Dad, Ridgefield. I didn't unblock the number. Not yet. But I saved it. Baby steps. A week later, I got a text from another unknown number. Hey bro, it's Rachel. Just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. No pressure to respond, just wanted you to know. I read it twice. Then saved the contact too, Rachel, new. 2 more weeks passed, and a letter arrived. No return address, but I recognized my mother's handwriting. I set it on my kitchen counter and stared at it for 3 days before I finally opened it. 5 pages, handwritten, tear-stained in places. An accounting of her regrets, her hopes, her realization of all she'd taken for granted. No demands, no guilt trips, just raw, honest words. I folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. I wasn't ready to respond, but I kept it. 6 months after I walked away from them, I found myself driving to a coffee shop in a town halfway between my apartment and Ridgefield. My father was already there, seated at a corner table, looking smaller than I remembered. Older. He stood when he saw me. Uncertainty written all over his face. Jason, you came. I nodded, sitting across from him. I said I might. He smiled nervously. That you did. We ordered coffee. The conversation was stilted at first, awkward. But as the minutes ticked by, something shifted. We talked about his job, my promotion, the weather, safe topics, nothing too deep. As I was getting ready to leave, he reached across the table, then pulled his hand back, thinking better of it. I'm proud of you, son, he said quietly. Not because of what you can do for us. Just because of who you are. The words I'd waited years to hear. I didn't hug him. We weren't there yet. But I did shake his hand, a formal gesture but an honest one. Same time next month? He asked, hope creeping into his voice. I considered it. Maybe. We'll see. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. It was caution, boundaries, self-respect, all the things I'd learned in the months since I'd walked away. As I drove home, I realized something important. The greatest gift I'd given myself wasn't just freedom from financial burden. It was the space to decide what kind of relationship I wanted with my family, the power to set the terms, the right to say no without guilt. Whether we rebuilt something meaningful or simply went our separate ways, the choice was mine. And that freedom to choose, was worth everything. I pulled into my apartment complex, parked, and took a deep breath. For the first time in years, possibly ever, I wasn't angry at them. I wasn't resentful, I wasn't drained. I was just me, Jason, living my life, setting my boundaries, making my choices, and it felt like freedom.